glitches, and we will start Lecture 5. Thank you so much for joining us for Lecture 5 of this Cricket South Africa Level 1 course. My name is Abdullah Steenkamp, and I am flying solo this evening. My usual co-presenter Tom will join us next week, Monday, for the revision lecture. So our format will be as usual. I will start this evening with the Law 22. And after I've covered the laws, I will then open the floor for Q&A. I'll first go to the chat box, answer any comments or questions in the chat box, and then we'll go to the floor. Just give me a second. Let me just get to my slides. So Law 22 covers the wide ball. For this course, we are covering how the law see the white ball, and not as you see in many competitions, especially the white ball competitions, the T20 and the 50 over competitions, where there are certain playing conditions that do govern how the umpires call wide. There's even wide guidelines drawn on the pitch that can assist the umpires in consistently calling wides, but those are playing conditions for the T20 and 50 over competitions. What we're covering tonight is the wide ball, how the laws of cricket interpret the wide ball, and what the definition according to the laws of cricket is of the wide ball. So according to the laws of cricket, and in specific Mode cricket, and then I'll use test match as an example. So if you see test matches, you will not see those white lines or wide lines drawn on the pitch. So how do you judge a wide in Mode cricket according to the laws of cricket? It is the striker standing in a normal batting position, and then the laws say the ball passing wide of the striker standing in a normal batting position. So that's all that the law is saying. Passing wide of the striker, standing in a normal batting position. Then the law goes further and interprets, or how we need to interpret, what is passing wide of the striker, standing in a normal batting position. So the definition of passing wide of the striker is the ball needs to be uh, within reach of the striker, and the striker needs to be able to hit the ball by the means of a normal cricket shot. So this is now the definition of a wide. Firstly, striker standing in a normal batting position, and you then need to consider, did the ball pass wide of the striker? And what is this definition of wide? The striker needs to be able to hit the ball by the means of a normal cricket stroke. If, according to you, and you can now see it is a judgment call, and that's why in white ball cricket in T20 and 50, the white lines, or there's a playing condition that governs it, and there's the white lines drawn. It just helps the umpire in consistently then calling wide. So in Mode cricket, it is a judgment call. You need to judge passing wide. What is passing wide? If the striker is able to hit it by the means of a normal cricket shot, it will not be a wide. If not, or i.e. the striker is not able to hit it by the means of a normal cricket shot, then you need to call and signal wide. I can remember in my playing days, I played for the game at club cricket level for more than 25 years. And for those 25 years, I actually always thought the return crease in Mode cricket, that is where you need to call and signal wide. So if it's inside the return crease, it's a fair delivery. It's outside the return crease, it's a wide. But for 25 years, I got the law completely wrong. You've now saw what the law say. You need to judge whether the batter is able to hit it by the means of a normal cricket shot. And then when it comes to judging the wide, the law tells us, please don't be in a hurry to call and signal wide. Wait till the ball passes the striker's wicket. And once it passes the striker's wicket, then you can call and signal wide. Again, the law emphasized in terms of calling and signaling wide. Please delay that call until the ball passes the striker's wicket. It happened to me on more than one occasion. I was so quick, ball was very wide, quickly to call it. The striker played a late cut shot down to third man, and here Abdullah standing with my arms aside, calling and signaling wide. Meanwhile, the ball went off the middle of the striker's bat towards third man for 4. So just the point what I'm trying to make is delay the calling and signaling of wide until it passes the striker's wicket. So in terms of your calling, yes, you need to delay it until it passes the striker's wicket. But technically, according to the law, the ball to be considered wide from the instant that the bowler enters his or her delivery stride. When does the bowler enter his or her delivery stride? When that back foot lands. So technically, according to the laws, as soon as that back foot lands, then it is actually seen as per the laws of cricket, the ball being wide. But in terms of calling it, wait until the ball passes the striker's wicket. Revoking a call of wide ball, that's why also I shouldn't be calling it too quickly, because the law allows you to revoke your call if there's been contact with between the ball and the striker's bat or the striker's person. Like in my example, I would call and signal wide ball loudly. Meanwhile, the batter played late stroke down to third man for 4. I had to revoke my call of wide and then signal 4 to the scorers. Also, the law guides us by telling us when a delivery will not be a wide, because there are times where the striker, by moving, and because the striker moving causes the ball or bring it within sufficient reach of him or her to be able to hit it by the means of a normal cricket shot. We've seen in many games these days where the strikers, they often move. So the law allows for that. If the striker moves whichever side and the striker brings him or her within sufficient reach to be able to hit it by the means of a normal cricket shot, you will not be calling and signaling wide. Ball is not dead on the call of a wide. Penalty for a wide. Soon as you call wide, there's a penalty of 1 run. And then it just goes further. Let's say the ball is wide, you call and signal wide, keeper misses it and it goes over the boundary. You will then allow for the penalty for the wide. So you'll signal wide to the scorers. You'll wait for them to acknowledge. You will signal boundary 4 as well to the scorers and wait for them to acknowledge. So all runs completed by the batters or a boundary allowance together will be put in the scorebook as wides. Wide not to count as 1 for the over. How can you be dismissed of a wide? There are 4 ways to be dismissed of a wide. Number 1, hit wicket. Number 2, obstructing the field. Number 3, run out. And lastly, stumped. So again, this is highlighted in green. There is a question in the exam with regards to how you can be dismissed from a wide. So there are 4 ways, and these are the 4 ways. Buys and leg buys. I'm first going to cover buys and the interpretation of buys. So the first condition that needs to be in place, the condition that needs to be in place when it comes to buys, the law tells us the ball to not have touched either the bat or the person of the striker. That's all you need to take into account. You need to ask yourself, did the ball touch the bat or the person of the striker? If no, and runs from that ball will then be seen as buys. So the only criteria you take into account is, did it touch the bat or did it touch the person? If the answer to that question is no, and they do take runs, whether it's four, whether it's one, two, three, those get seen as buys. Again, in my playing days, for 25 years, I actually thought there was another condition in place. You need to offer a shot. If you don't offer a shot and the ball didn't touch anything and the keeper misses it and they now start to run, I thought you shouldn't allow that runs because you didn't offer a shot. No, when it comes to buys, and we're going to get to in the next law, when we get to leg buys, there we're going to see the importance of playing a shot or not playing a shot. But when it comes to buys, only criteria you need to take into account is, did it touch the bat or person? If your answer to that question is no, it didn't touch, so you don't take into account whether shot is played or not. Only thing you need to take into account is, did it touch bat or person? If no, those runs get seen as buys and will be credited in the scorebook as buys to the batting side. And if the ball was a no ball, that no ball shall stand, and that no ball shall also be recorded as no ball extras in the scorebook. So when it comes to leg buys, so now we know the criteria for when we give buys. What is the criteria when we give leg buys? So the definition is, the ball strikes the person or protective equipment of the striker. Leg buys only to be scored if two conditions are met. So in this case, ball not touching the bat, it touches the person or protective equipment of the striker. So anywhere, yes, the law call it leg buys, but anywhere on the body, whether it's the shoulder, the arm, the foot, the leg, the tummy, anywhere on the person or the protective equipment. If it touches, the ball touches it, leg buys can be scored, but there's two criteria that needs to be met. What are those criteria? The first one is, for leg buys to be scored, the striker needs to attempt to play the ball with his or her bat. That's the first criteria. There needs to be an attempt to play at the ball for leg buys to be scored. And the second one is, the striker try to avoid being hit by the ball. If these two criteria is met, the ball struck anywhere on the person, and either the striker attempted to play the ball with his or her bat or tried to avoid being hit by the ball, then and if any runs accrues from that delivery, those will be recorded as leg buys in the scorebook. So now we've covered that there are two criteria that needs to be in place when leg buys to be awarded. Now, when will leg buys not be awarded? So we now know the criteria when it will be awarded. So it will not be awarded if just the opposite of the criteria when it is awarded. The first one was, the striker did not attempt to play the ball with his or her bat. If that is the case, if there's no attempt to play the ball with the bat and the ball then strike anywhere on the person, leg buys to not be awarded. Leg buys also not be awarded if the striker tried not to avoid being hit by the ball. So it's just the opposite criteria from when leg buys is to be awarded. And again, players don't know this, and including myself, I played it for many years. I only came to know about this law when I did my level 1 umpiring course, and you see it week in, week out, from club cricket even to up until professional level. Yeah, you'll see. Let's say we now know leg buys not to be awarded if the batter didn't attempt to play the ball with his or her bat. So in the scenario where the batter sold his arms, didn't attempt to play on the ball with the bat. The bat then hits the front pad. From the front pad, it ricochets towards third man, and the batters now try to take a single. You will 99%. Now they started running. You'll hear the fielder shouting, umpire, umpire, they're not allowed to run, they're not allowed to run. The law actually guides us here. The law tell us that, yes, the striker in our scenario didn't offer a shot. The ball ricocheted towards third man, and they now started to run. But don't be in a hurry to call dead ball. The law guides us. The law tells us only call dead ball if that ball either reaches the boundary or at the completion of the first run. Only then you call and signal dead ball. Because while they're still busy with that first run, the law gives the fielding side the opportunity to still to try to run out either of the batters. So ball is still alive in that first run. So you only call and signal dead ball. Let's say the ball goes over the boundary. Then you call and signal dead ball. Or once they've completed the first run, not the second or third, at first run, if they completed it, then you call and signal dead ball. So in our scenario, where the batter striker didn't offer a shot, the ball then ricochets from the pad towards the third man boundary, and let's say they start to run. Now they take a single, and we've just heard now that only upon the completion of the first run, then the umpire to call and signal a dead ball. But we also know that leg byes do not be awarded because the criteria is clear. There needs to be a shot for leg byes to be awarded. In our example, the batter shouldered arms, then took a single. So the lawmakers say that leg bye not to be awarded. So upon the completion of the first run, you need to call and signal dead ball. You need to disallow all runs to the batting side. That run should not count. Also, you need to return the batters back to their original end. If there was a no ball, you signal no ball to the scorers. Award any 5 penalty runs that was applicable, except for the penalty runs under law 28.3, protective helmets belonging to the fielding side. So now we know the difference between leg byes and when to allow byes, and when to also allow leg byes, and when to not allow leg byes. Law 24 covers the fielder's absence and substitutes. So when will you allow a substitute fielder as the umpire? We get guided by the law. Again, it's highlighted in green, so there is a question in the exam about the substitute fielder. So the criteria that the umpires needs to take into account when allowing a substitute fielder is, did that particular fielder become injured or ill during this particular game? If the answer to that question is yes, you will allow a substitute fielder. That's all criteria you need to take into account. Did the injury or illness happen during this particular game? If yes, you'll allow a substitute fielder. There's also, for a wholly acceptable reason, you will also allow a substitute fielder. The law also guides us when it comes to a substitute. This substitute fielder that's now on for an injured fielder, this substitute is not allowed, according to the laws, to either bowl or bat or be captain of the side. So all the substitute fielder can do is field, nothing else. The law also allows the substitute fielder to come on and be the wicket keeper. But for that to happen, needs the consent of the umpires. If the umpires agree that the substitute can act as a wicket keeper, then it will be allowed. If the umpires do not agree, that's for the substitute to be wicket keeper, then the substitute cannot be a wicket keeper. So what happens if a fielder is absent or leave the field during play? So for many years, um, this law was like tweaked quite a few years ago. But for many years, players used to abuse this law. Players used to fake injuries just to go off, to go rest, to get their feet up. So many years ago, you'll have, let's say, the opening bowler bowl 5 overs, um, go off, sit in the change room for an hour, come back on, bowl another 5 overs, go off again, relax. The bowlers used to do it. Even batters used to. It's close to the side is 8 to 9 down. The opening bats feel okay. I need a bit of a rest. Would then go off to freshen up, to put the feet up, knowing that the innings is starting soon. So players would abuse this law. They would fake injuries. The lawmakers then decided, let's uh, tighten this law a bit. So yes, they've tightened it. Yes, there are lots of genuine injuries, but there's also lots of times where players fake injuries. We're not medical doctors, so we don't know when they're faking, when they're not faking. The lawmakers decided that we're going to do the following. So if a player decides to go off, that player needs to inform the umpire that umpire, let's use a hamstring as an example. Umpire, my hamstring, I just pulled or tweaked my hamstring. I want to go off to get treatment. So the player comes to the umpire. Umpire will take out his or a notebook, write down Cindy off at 10:30, hamstring injury. And we'll now see the importance of why you actually need to write this down. Also, so then I'm going to give you a bit of practical advice also. So if the injured player comes to you saying, umpire, I need to go off, I need to let the physio have a look at my hamstring. No problem. You'll write down the name, Cindy, left the field at 10:30, and you'll put in brackets hamstring. You'll also tell Cindy, please, when you come back or before you come back onto the field, let either of the umpires know that you are coming back. We're going to see in later slides why it's important for the injured player now returning to the field to inform the umpire that he or she is coming back, because there's quite a stiff penalty if you don't inform the umpire that you're coming back and you now actually touch the ball. But we'll get to that in a later slide. So you tell Cindy, please let me know when you come back. You also tell Cindy's captain, the fielding captain, please, before Cindy comes back on, just let me know, because we just need to make a note when she returns. So now in point 1, you wrote down Cindy's name, you wrote the time and the reason. In point 2, Cindy needs to tell you when she's coming back. So you'll also need to write down when Cindy comes back. So Cindy, let's say for argument's sake, Cindy comes back waving, usually saying, umpire, I'm coming on. You'll just wave to Cindy, yes, no problem. Cindy comes on. Now you need to look at the time as the umpire, because you wrote the time Cindy went off, which is 10:30. Cindy is back on the field at 10:50. So how long was Cindy off? 20 minutes. So now this is when point number 3 comes in. And this is where the lawmakers tighten this law by saying, okay, Cindy was off for 20 minutes. So before Cindy can bowl again, Cindy needs to be on the field for a 20 minutes duration before Cindy can bowl. So practically, in our example, Cindy went off at 10:30, Cindy came back on at 10:50. So that's 20 minutes. So from now, law say, point 3 saying, Cindy needs to wait 20 minutes before she can bowl. So from 10:50, if you add 20 minutes to it, it's 11:10. So only from 11:10, Cindy can bowl again. So the amount of time the Cindy's off, she needs to be on the field for that time before she can bowl again, up to a max of 90 minutes. This is how this max works. Let's say Cindy goes off at 11 and Cindy only comes back in the afternoon at 4:30. So yes, Cindy was off for 3-4 hours. Does Cindy need to wait 3-4 hours before she can bowl again? No. The law say there's a max penalty time of 90 minutes. So if Cindy comes on at 16:30, even though she was off for, let's say, 4 hours, Cindy only needs to wait 90 minutes before she can bowl again. So you will tell Cindy when she comes onto the field, Cindy, you need to wait 90 minutes. You tell a captain as well. So you can bowl again at 6 o'clock. So that's what the lawmakers did to tighten up the law. You can allow, if a player tells you I'm injured, no problem. You'll allow him or her to go off. But they need to serve that penalty time. That same amount of time that they were off, they need to be on the field for that amount of time before they're allowed to bowl again. Unserved penalty time doesn't disappear. It gets carried into the next innings. It gets carried into the next day. It doesn't carry into the next match, but it doesn't disappear. As long as this game is ongoing and the injured fielder still owes penalty time, it will not disappear. They need to serve that penalty time before they're allowed to bowl again. Point 4 is saying sometimes player goes off multiple times. They'll go off, let's say, from 10:30 till 11 o'clock. Now they're back on the field 11 o'clock for 10 minutes. 10 past 11, they're off again for another half an hour. Then they come back for 10 minutes. Then they go off for another 20 minutes. In those instances, all those unserved penalty time gets added, doesn't disappear. You add it up, and the injured fielder needs to serve all that unserved penalty time before he and she can bat again. Scheduled intervals, like your lunch or your tea interval, does not count for nor against any penalty time to be served. I'll use lunch as an example. Let's say Cindy goes off, lunch is at 12 o'clock. Cindy goes off at 11:10. Sorry, at 11:50. Lunch is at 12 o'clock. So players leave the field at 12 o'clock. So from 11:50 till 12 o'clock is 10 minutes. So at the start of lunch, Cindy owes us 10 minutes. Lunch is 40 minutes, so play will restart after lunch at 12:40. As the players walk back onto the field at 12:40, fielding captain asks you, when can Cindy bowl? Cindy can bowl at 12:50. How did I get 12:50? How much penalty time does Cindy owe us? Only 10 minutes. Only time that Cindy was not on the field, that is what Cindy owes us. Cindy was not on the field from 11:50 till 12 o'clock. That 40 minutes from 12 till 12:40, no one was on the field. Everyone was enjoying lunch. It was not playing time. So when it comes to a scheduled interval, you don't add it to penalty time, nor do you subtract it. So you don't now say from 11:50 till 12, that's 10 minutes. From 12 till 12:40, that's 40 minutes. So in total, Cindy owes us 50 minutes. No, it was lunch for everyone. No one was on the field. So you do not add lunch intervals, scheduled intervals. The law allows for an unscheduled interval, and a typical example is a rain interruption. The law allows for an unscheduled interval to be offset against any penalty time that a player an injured player might owe us. We will go into much more details for those of you that's going to join us in level 2 and level 3. We're going to go into detail about penalty time, unscheduled break, how you offset it, how you don't offset it. So just for this level 1 course, I'm just going to briefly explain to you when it comes to an unscheduled break and when you can offset it against any penalty time that a player might owe us. So there's certain criteria that you need to take into account. Point number 1, say you can offset an unscheduled break if a fielder was on the field at the start of the interruption, in our case a rain interruption, and that fielder takes the field on the resumption of play after the interruption. If that is the case, you can offset that whole unscheduled break against any penalty time that the player might owe us. Second scenario is, so the first one is where a fielder was on the field when it started to rain. The second one is a fielder The injured fielder was not on the field when it started to rain. Now the law wants that injured fielder to personally inform the umpires when UC is fit again. And from that moment that UC informs the umpires, that is when the clock will start and when you can start offsetting the unscheduled break against any penalty time owes. Again, in level 2 and level 3, we'll go into much more detailed about this. In the level 1 exam, it will just be a simple, straightforward question. When did injured fielder go off? When did they come back on? When can they bowl again? We spoke earlier about unserved penalty time. It doesn't disappear. So in our test match, it goes into the next day and the next day and the next day for the duration of that game. It also goes into the next innings. If you still owe in the first innings, if you still owe penalty time, it goes into the next innings. There are times when the lawmakers, where the lawmakers agree that, or they brought this in, where penalty time to not be incurred. Remember, this law was tweaked or changed, to clamp down on players abusing this law, faking injuries, to go to the dressing room to have their feet up. That's why this law was tightened. Because when it comes to a hamstring or a groin or oh, my back is sore, we don't know. If a player comes to you and say, umpire, my hamstring is sore, I want the physio to have a look at it. I mean, you can't see with a tight hamstring. We're not medical doctors or physios. We take the player's word for it. You will allow the player to go off. We'll allow a substitute to come on. But then that penalty time concept comes in, where player, for the amount of time that UFC was off, needs to be on the field for that same amount before UFC can bowl again. But the lawmakers do acknowledge that sometimes things happen where we know that the player didn't fake it, and this is where this concept of when penalty time will not be incurred, or the injured player don't have to serve any penalty time. And what is those two instances? When a player suffers an external blow during the match and need to leave the field, with the emphasis here on external blow, and it needs to happen during play, while play is in progress. Umpires needs to see this external blow. Shouldn't be happening in the nets before the game starts, or warm up before the before the game, or happen during lunchtime in the dressing room. There needs to be an external blow, and I'll give you a few examples of an external blow. The short leg fielder, bowler bowls a short ball, the striker cuts the ball into the leg of the short leg fielder. The fielder goes down in pain. The fielder physio comes on. Physio then tells, I need to take the player off. I need to treat the injured leg. So that's an example of an external blow. The ball against foot, ball or leg, and the fielder then had to go off to get treatment. And let's say that fielder was off for half an hour. Upon return, half an hour later, that fielder do not have to serve any penalty time. That fielder can bowl immediately. So the reason is, that's an external blow that happened while play was in progress. And the umpires, we saw it. We saw a ball went against the leg. Players didn't try to fake it. We actually saw it. Now the law allows for that, and no penalty time to be incurred if it's an external blow. So ball against foot, ball against hand. Another example, doesn't have to be ball against foot or finger. It can be ball gets hit high up in the air, two fielders converging on the ball, and they run into each other, and they go down, and the ball drops to the ground. So there was an external blow. There was contact between the two fielders. One, they need to go off to get treatment. Again, you saw it happen. It happened in front of you with this external blow, one body against the other body. A fielder need to go off for treatment. If that is the case, and that fielder, let's say, is off for an hour, that gets seen as an external blow. We saw it happen during play, on the field, no penalty time to be incurred. Also, if there's a wholly acceptable reason, then also no penalty time to be incurred. But it needs to be a wholly acceptable reason. That is for the umpires to together to decide what is a wholly acceptable reason. Like I'll use in the Cricket South Africa provincial competition, there are many students that play provincial cricket, and especially during exam times. So they often find them on a Saturday morning writing from 9 till 11. So usually what happens, they will get a letter from the university informing Cricket South Africa that student X will be writing from 9 to 11. That letter then gets sent to the master referee for that particular game. So from while they're writing exam, and let's say that student only comes to the ground at 12 o'clock. So that's an example of a wholly acceptable reason why that particular player was not on the field of play, and that particular fielder do not have to serve any penalty time. But it needs to really be a wholly acceptable reason, umpires to decide on it. Earlier, I mentioned the importance of when a player comes to you and say, umpire, I need to leave the field. And we use Cindy as an example. So Cindy comes to you and say, umpire, I need my hamstring. Can I go off, please? I need to have the physio to treat it. You'll say, no problem, Cindy. You write down Cindy's name, you write on the reason, and you write down the time. You'll also tell Cindy, before you come back, please let me know. Please let me know when you come back. And why is that important? Because if Cindy comes back onto the field without informing either of the umpires, and Cindy then comes into contact with the ball while it is in play, this law is strict. The law now tells us, Cindy, that return to the field without permission, comes into contact with the ball, that ball immediately becomes dead. 5 penalty runs to the batting side. Any runs completed by the batters, together with the run in progress, also to be if they cross, to be scored. Ball not to count as one for the over. You will inform the batters, the captains, the batting captain, and you report this incident. So now you can see important for players to inform the umpires when they're coming back, because there's quite a stiff penalty. Law 25 covers batters' innings and the runners. Give me a second. Let me just drink something. When it comes to the point number 1, the law still allows for runners, because there are still many competitions, especially the lower leagues, that still allow runners. So it is still in the laws of cricket, but we know for many of the competitions across the world, we do not allow runners anymore. So when does a batter's innings start? The opening bats, their innings start on the call of play. That's when it starts. Any other batter, let's say opening bat gets bowled at in the second over of the game, the number 3 batter, his or her innings will commence as soon as that batter steps onto the field of play. As soon as the batter puts his or her foot across the rope, then that innings will commence. Earlier we spoke about penalty time for the fielder before the fielder can go bat again. sorry, can go bowl again. So fielder needs to be on the field of play for the same amount of time that he or she was off before that injured fielder can bowl again. Similarly, because batters were also abusing the law, especially the opening bats. What they did was they they know the innings is almost at an end, and they would take turns going off to go have a shower, to have their feet up, to be fresh when it is the start of the innings. So now the lawmaker says, if a opening bat comes on, goes off, no problem, you'll allow it, but UC will also serve the penalty time, and that injured player will also needs to wait that same amount of time before he or she can bat again. So if the opening bat goes off for an hour, and let's say the injured bat goes off at 2 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, the innings is at an end. So for 60 minutes, that injured batter was off. There will now be a change of innings, and let's just forget about tea or anything. This for example purposes. So at 3 o'clock, the innings end. At 3:10, the side B will now come out to bat. So when can that opening bat again? That opening bat needs to wait an hour. So from 3 till 4, the opening bat can only bat. But there is a but. The law allows, if the side has lost 5 wickets, the opening bat can come out to bat even though he or she may still owe penalty time. So just an example, in our example, the opening bat owes an hour. So from 15:10 till 16:10 is an hour. So 16:10, the opening bat can only bat. But let's say in the first over, the opening bowler takes a hat trick, and then in the next over, 2 wickets fall. So in the space of 20 minutes, the side is 20 for 5. Now, at the fall of the 5th wicket, the law allows for that opening bat to come back, even though the opening bat still owes 40 minutes. But the law allows for him or her to come back because the side now lost 5 wickets. But it needs to be 5 wickets for this clause to be activated. Otherwise, they need to wait an hour. Also, we spoke about earlier an unscheduled stoppage that where you can offset it for the injured fielder or bowler. Same principle applies to the batter. And the clock will start, where you can start offsetting the unscheduled break as soon as the injured batter notifies the umpire in person that he or she is fit again. Then the clock will only start, and you can start then offsetting against any penalty time that he or she may owe. When it comes to the batter retiring, the law allows for this. The law allows, yes, a batter can retire at any time. They need to wait for the ball to become dead, and then they can retire. If they do decide to retire, they need to give the umpire a reason for retiring. Why is that reason important? Let's have a look. Because the law tells us, if a batter comes to you and say, umpire, I'm retiring, and if that retirement is because of injury, illness, or any unavoidable cause, that batter is entitled to resume his or her innings later on. So if the injury or unavoidable cause, the batter can come out to bat later on. If the batter don't come out to bat, in the book it will be recorded as retired, not out. But if the batter retires for any other reason other than injury, illness, or unavoidable cause, then for that batter to resume his or her innings, it can only happen with the consent of the opposing captain. If there's no consent given, the batter will then be recorded as retired out in the scorebook. A typical example of point number 3 is those batters that sometimes will get to 50 and they'll say, okay, I've had enough, I want to give someone else an opportunity. Now they say, umpire, I'm retiring. So that retirement is not because of injury or illness or unavoidable cause. A new batter will come in. For that batter to come bat later on in the innings, they need to go to the opposing captain and ask, can I go out and bat again? If the opposing captain say yes, no problem, you can go bat again. If the opposing captain say no, you're then not allowed to go bat again. What is the striker's right to play at the ball? The striker has the right to play at the ball. The striker has the right to to have a second stroke at the ball in order to protect his or her wicket. There shouldn't be any interference from the keeper or any other fielder. There's a few buts, but we'll get to it later on. But the law allows the striker its right to play at the ball, even if it's a second strike, in order to protect the wicket. But the law say, yes, it allows the striker right. You can play at the ball, but the striker needs, or in attempting to play at the ball, needs to have some part of bat or person, whether it's either grounded or raised, needs to remain within the pitch. The striker needs to be on the pitch. As soon as the striker leave the pitch, i.e. go off the pitch to play at the ball, now the law tells us, if there's no part of the striker's bat or person within the pitch, and the striker go off to play at the ball, either umpire to immediately call and signal dead ball. So the law's strict here. Any playing of ball needs to be on the pitch. Striker cannot go off the pitch to play at the ball. Umpires needs to intervene and call and signal dead ball. Practice on the field. And when I say practice on the field, I'm going to divide this, or the law divides it into two portions. The first section of the field is the match pitch and the rest of the square. So usually at most international grounds, at Newlands, I think there's about 17 strips on the square. Newlands has a huge square. So when it comes to, we're going to start off by saying the match pitch and the rest of the square. We're going to first look at it and also see what the laws say in terms of practicing on the match pitch and on the rest of the square, and then we're going to go to the outfield. So are you allowed to practice on the match pitch? No, you're not allowed at any time, any day, allowed to practice on the match pitch. You're not allowed to bowl a ball on the match pitch. You're not allowed to bounce a ball on the match pitch. Nothing is allowed. No practice on the match pitch. Are we allowed to practice on the rest of the square? The law say no practice to be allowed on the rest of the square, except with the approval of the umpires. At international and especially also provincial cricket, you will often find we call it bowling strips, the two strips right at the end of the square, where you can see the red lines on the right hand side and the red line on the left hand side, the furthest end pitches of the square. At provincial and international cricket, there are playing conditions that allow teams to bowl on these strips, but those are playing conditions. But according to the law say no practice on the square, on the whole of the square, except with the approval of the umpires. But as I said, in provincial and international cricket, there are playing conditions that governs this, that allows teams to practice on those bowling strips right at the end of the square. But otherwise, no practice on the pitch, match pitch, nor the rest of the square. Are you allowed to practice on the outfield? Yep, you're allowed to practice on the outfield. The law allows any day of the match. You can practice on the outfield before play starts, after the close of play, During your lunch and tea intervals or between innings, a law allows for practice on the outfield in these three circumstances. There is a but. If the umpires feels that if they allow practice on the outfield and it's going to cause significant deterioration to the condition of the outfield, they do have the power to say no to practice on the outfield. But otherwise, practice on the outfield before play starts, after the close of play, during lunch and tea intervals, no problem. Are you allowed to practice while play is in progress? Let's say in our test match, day one, play starts at 10 o'clock and lunchtime is at 12 o'clock. So now you call play, the bowlers in umpire calls play at 12 o'clock. And the bowlers in umpire will only call time at 12 o'clock when it's time for lunch. So between 10 and 12, are you allowed to practice? The law allows for practice on the outfield between the call of play and time, but there are certain conditions. Only fielders, the fielders that's on the field of play, they are allowed to practice. Only the match ball to be used for this practice. No bowling practice to take place in the area between the square and the boundary in a direction parallel to the match pitch. The umpires are satisfied that this practice will not contravene either the fielding side is trying to change the condition of the ball, or the fielding side is, by practicing, is trying to waste time. That is when you will allow practice while play is in progress on the outfield. When it comes to a trial run-up, and you'll often find bowlers wanting a quick trial run-up just to see if they have their strides in place, you'll allow it as the umpire, as long as this trial run-up don't waste time. So you take the match situation into account, and you need to then make that judgment call whether the fielding side or bowler is trying to waste time or not, and if the bowler is trying to damage the pitch. Otherwise, allow the bowler a trial run-up. So when you do see a contravention of this practice on either the match pitch or the outfield, what do you do as the umpire? First contravention, warn the player and tell the player this practice is not permitted. You'll inform other umpire, both captains, of what just happened. If the contravention is by a batter at the wicket, the umpire then to inform every single batter that comes in that the team is on a first and final warning for illegal practicing. This warning to apply to the team throughout the match, not the innings, throughout the match. If at any time during the rest of this game there's again a contravention, now you'll give 5 penalty runs to the opposing side. You'll inform everyone and you report this to the governing body of cricket for that particular competition. The wicket keeper. Let's see what the laws say, what the keeper is allowed to, what not allowed to, what movement, what equipment, and let's start with equipment. So in terms of equipment, what is the keeper allowed to wear and not to wear? The wicket keeper is the only fielder permitted to wear gloves and external leg guards. External leg guards, the keeper can put his or her pads outside the trousers. Any other fielder, if they do want to wear external, if they do want to wear leg guards, they need to put it inside their trousers. The only fielder that can have external leg guards is the keeper. And the keeper is now allowed to wear gloves and external guards. The keeper can then use the gloves and the external pads for the purpose of fielding. So when it comes to external pads, keeper can wear it out external or outside the trousers. Doesn't have to. If the keeper wants to keep it, there's many keepers these days that put it inside their trousers. No problem. Just the option is there for the keeper to put it outside. Doesn't have to be outside. But in terms of any other fielder, it has to be inside the trousers if they do want to put on shin guards or leg or pad that covers the legs. Also, when it comes to the actions and especially the positioning of the keeper. So the umpires. So when it comes to actions and especially the position of the keeper, if the keeper and if you see the keeper's action or positioning, or and I'll use an example to illustrate this. Let's say the keeper is standing. It's a medium pace bowler bowling, but the keeper standing on the boundary behind the bowler, 70 meters away on the boundary. So now it is obvious that that because of the keeper's positioning, this keeper is like technically not a keeper anymore, and the law then sees this as the keeper not being a wicket keeper anymore and does not recognize this as a wicket keeper anymore, because the keeper needs to stand in the normal keeping position for that particular bowler. So if the keeper, in my example, is on the boundary for this medium pace bowler, the keeper then forfeits his or her right to be seen as a wicket keeper. So what does that mean? The keeper is now not allowed to wear those gloves and those external leg guards anymore for the purpose of either taking a catch or fielding the ball. Nothing is stopping the keeper from standing on the boundary. I'm not saying the keeper is not allowed to stand there, but the keeper is not allowed to use the pads and the gloves to either catch or to stop the ball, because this keeper is now not recognized as a wicket keeper anymore. This example of the keeper's gloves, whether they show you no webbing between the fingers, just a single piece of non-stretch material between index finger and thumb only, or solely as a means of support. So when it comes to the position of the keeper behind the stumps, the law wants the keeper to at all time remains behind the wicket, wholly behind the wicket, at the striker's end, from the moment the ball comes into play. From the moment the bowler takes his or her first step, that's when the ball comes into play. Keeper needs to stay at all times behind the wicket until a ball either touches the bat or person of the striker. If that is the case, if it touches the bat or the person of the striker, now the keeper can come in front of the stumps. If it passes the wicket at the striker's end, the keeper can now come in front of the stumps. Or if the striker attempts a run, the keeper can now come in front of the stumps. Other than these three bullet points, the keeper always needs to stay behind the wicket at all times, unless it touches the bat or person, or passes the wicket at the striker's end, or the striker attempts a run. If the keeper contravenes this law, the striker's end umpire needs to call and signal no ball, because striker's end umpire is in the best position to see if those hands came in front of the stumps. I'm going to play you a video.
Hello guys, welcome to my channel. First, let's watch a footage from the T20 match between India and Australia, which happened on 21st of November 2018. Australian wicketkeeper Alex Carey ends up touching the stumps before the ball reaches him, and after referring to the third umpire, it was declared a no ball. So what do you guys think about it? It's a no ball because he touched the stumps? Well, let's find out. Before going any further, let us take a look at the restrictions a wicketkeeper has. He has restrictions both on his movement and position. According to cricket law, after the ball comes into play, well, to know when the ball comes into play, watch the above video. And before the ball reaches the striker, it is unfair if the wicketkeeper makes any significant movement. In this case, umpire will call it dead ball and further action will be invalid. However, he is allowed to make certain movements. Let's take a look at them. He is allowed to move a few steps forward for a slower delivery, but doing so should not bring the stumps in his reach. He is allowed to move laterally, like this wicketkeeper, in response to the direction in which the ball has been delivered. He is allowed to move in response to the stroke that the striker is playing, like this wicketkeeper does, but he has to make sure that he follows the law 27.3.1. Let's see what exactly that law is. The wicketkeeper shall remain wholly behind the wicket. He can't even be parallel to the stumps from the moment the ball comes into play till either of the following things happens. Ball touches the bat or body of the striker. So he can come ahead of the stumps right after the ball touches the bat or batsman's body, just like this keeper does. Next case. He can come ahead after the ball passes the stumps, and he can come ahead if the striker starts running without playing the shot. It will be called a no ball in case of keeper violating this law. In the case of Alex Carey, ball had touched the bat when he broke the wicket. Hence, this is not a violation of law. But he was parallel to the stumps before the ball made contact with the bat. Hence, it was called a no ball. Another instance which needs a mention here is Andy Flower's incident. He is clearly ahead of the stumps even before the ball reached the batsman. It should have been called a no ball, but the umpire didn't notice it at all, and unfortunately, it costed Ridley Jacobs his wicket. Still have any doubts with this? Do let me know in the comment section. If you like the video, hit the like button.
So the narrator covered the movement by the keeper. Let's just go over it again. So after the ball comes into play and before it reaches the striker, the law sees it as unfair for the keeper to significantly alter his or her position in relation to the striker's wicket, except for the following. Movement of a few paces forward for slower delivery, unless in doing so, it brings the keeper within the reach of the wicket. The keeper is allowed lateral movement in response to the direction in which the ball has been delivered, and the keeper is allowed movement in response to the stroke that the striker is playing or suggests he or she intends to play. In the event of unfair movement by the keeper, either umpire to call and signal dead ball and inform the other umpire for the reason in doing so. So after calling and signaling dead ball, there are further punishment. So let's see what the other punishment is. If there was a no ball or wide, that will stand 5 penalty runs to the batting side for unfair movement by the keeper. You'll inform the captain of the fielding side, inform the batters, captain of the batting side, and report it to the governing body. So you can see it's fairly strict. Keepers not allowed to move unfairly instead of unless in those three instances, those 3 bullet points that we covered in the previous slide, and this is the punishment. You'll see the pick. Temba Bavuma intended to play the lap sweep, and as soon as Temba intended, you can see the keeper was allowed to move. That slip, they couldn't. They're allowed to move. So interference with the keeper by the striker. The striker in playing at the ball or in legitimate defense of his or her wicket, the striker is not allowed to interfere with the keeper if the keeper is trying to catch the ball. But we'll get to obstructing the field. But the point that the point number 6 is trying to make is the keeper is allowed to play at the ball or to make a legitimate defense or second or even third strike to protect his or her wicket, unless the keeper tried to obstruct the ball from being caught. We'll see the punishment if there's obstruction from the ball being caught. What happens to the striker? We'll get there tomorrow. We've now covered what the keeper is allowed to do and not allowed to do. Now the fielder. So is a normal fielder allowed to use the keeper's equipment? What do you think? We just saw in the previous law, only the keeper can wear gloves and the external leg guards. Is any other player allowed to wear it? And what happens if they do wear it? We'll see. Let's first look at the video, and we'll then see what the law say.
Babar Azam wearing a glove and actually caught the ball, and then that was deemed illegal fielding. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, right, the first delivery, there's 5 penalty runs, and that's because of illegal fielding, because Babar Azam picked up Rizwan's glove and used it to catch the ball,
So only the keeper's allowed to wear and use those gloves. Any other fielder, like in this instance where Mohammad Rizwan threw his glove to the floor, chased after the ball, Babar Azam, an international captain, picked up the ball, picked up the glove and caught the ball with the glove. That is deemed illegal fielding, and we'll now see the punishment for illegal fielding. So the law allows a fielder to field the ball with any part of his or her person while the ball is in play. However, it will be deemed to have fielded the ball illegally if, while the ball is in play, he willfully uses anything other than his or her person to field the ball. You can use any part of your person to field the ball. But if it uses anything else, and we'll see in a picture in the next slide, an example of using something else to field the ball. Extend his or her clothing and uses this to field the ball. Discards a piece of clothing, equipment, or any other object, and this then subsequently makes contact with the ball. So if you willfully discards either a helmet or you take your cap off and you throw it to the ground, and while the ball is in play, it touches this is deemed legal fielding. But it needs to be, this clothing or equipment needs to be willfully discarded. If it accidentally falls from the fielder's person, like let's say a fielder chasing after the ball and the cap flies off, the wind blows the cap off. If the cap accidentally flies off and the ball touches it while in play, that is not deemed illegal fielding. But if it's willfully discarded, whether it's your cap, your helmet, if it's willfully discarded, that gets seen as illegal fielding. Here's an example. This is not allowed. You can field the ball with any part of your person. But if you're going to field it with your cap like this is seen as illegal fielding. What is the punishment? Let's have a look. If that ball was a no ball or wide, that no ball and wide shall stand. Any runs completed by the batters shall also stand, together with a run in progress at if they crossed when the ball came dead, when the fielder, let's say, tried to field the ball with his or her cap. Those runs all to count. Ball not to count as one for the over. 5 penalty runs to the batting side. You'll inform everyone of what has happened and you'll report this to the governing body. So you can see there's a fairly strict punishment, or fairly, I wouldn't say harsh punishment, but if it's illegal fielding, This is the punishment. 5 penalty runs. Runs to count. Ball not to count is 1 for the over. When it comes to protective helmets belonging to the fielding side, well, the law allows for helmets, protective helmets, when they're not in use, to be placed on the ground behind the keeper and in line with both setter stumps. So the law allows the helmets to be put behind the keeper. You'll often find that spinner bowling from one end and seamer from the other end. So spinner, there's a short leg and a silly point, both the helmets as well as the keeper. So they all have helmets on. When the spinner's bowling, when the fast bowler's bowling, the next over, they'll put those 3 helmets behind the keeper. And good umpiring technique, make sure that it is in line with both setter stumps. If it's slightly off line, just ask the keeper or the one of the slips just to put it in line. So the law allows for those helmets to put behind the keeper. But what happens while that ball is in play and it makes contact with the protective helmet? Let's say there's only one behind the keeper and it makes contact with that helmet. As soon as the ball touches the helmet, any part, it just needs to touch it. Immediately it becomes dead. 5 penalty runs to the batting side. Also, any runs completed by the batters to be scored together with a run in progress if they crossed at the instant of the ball touching the helmet. Those runs also to count. So you can see, again, if it touches it, ball becomes dead, 5 penalty runs, including all those runs. In the previous law, we covered movement by the fielders, movement by the wicketkeeper. What is allowed by the keeper, what is not allowed. When it comes to fielders, what is allowed, according to the laws, what is a fielder allowed to do and what is the fielder not allowed to do? So the law tells us that any movement by any fielder, and we're not referring now here to the keeper because we've covered the keeper in the previous law. We're now referring to the other 10 fielders. Any movement by the fielder after the ball comes into play and before the ball reaches the striker is unfair. The law says it's unfair. Except, there are exceptions. What are those exceptions? The law allows that fielder to do minor adjustments to his or her stance or position in relation to the striker's wicket. Minor. The law allows movement by any fielder towards the striker or the striker's wicket as long as this movement not to significantly alter the position of the fielder. So point 1 and 2, law allows minor adjustments. Law allows you've always heard, you'll hear in cricket, walking with the bowler. The law allows it. Walking towards the striker whilst the bowler is running in, but it should not significantly alter the position of the fielder. The fielder cannot start in the circle, let's say on the 30-yard circle, and then suddenly while walking in with the bowler, suddenly the fielder is now a silly point. That is now significantly altering the position of the fielder. That shouldn't allowed, but usually they walk in 2, 3, 4 paces as the bowler is coming in to run to bowl the delivery. That is no problem. That is allowed. Also, movement by any fielder in response to the stroke that the striker is playing or that the striker suggests to play, no problem. That is also allowed. So these 3 points, that's allowed. That movement is allowed for a fielder. Anything other than that is unfair. And what is the punishment for unfair movement by the fielder? Umpire to call and signal dead ball. There's further punishment. If there was a no ball or a wide, that to count. 5 penalty runs to the batting side. Inform the captain of the fielding side for the reason for this action. Inform the batters and the batting captain. Report the incident according to the law. So again, fairly harsh punishment for unfair movement by the fielder. the wicket, and when is the wicket down? Let's look at the video.
The wicket is down. The wicket is put down when one or both bails are removed from the top of the stumps, or a stump is struck out of the ground. The situation can be brought about in the following ways. By the ball, by the batsman's bat. By the batsman's bat if he or she lets go of it, or even by some flying part of a bat if it breaks. By the batsman's clothing or body, or some part of his or her equipment falling off. By a fielder with his or her hand or arm, providing the same hand is holding the ball. If the bail merely bounces and comes to rest back on the stumps, then that is not out. The wicket is down at the precise moment that both ends of either bail are removed from the stumps. Right about now. Should you have further questions on this tricky subject, such as how to put the wicket down when one or both bails have already been removed, head over to Law 29 in MCC's The Laws of Cricket.
So if the bails are down, and how to correctly then break the wicket, you need to remove a stump with the stump and the ball like in this picture. This is how you legally break the wicket if the bails are off. So you need to remove the stump with the ball in the hand, not the stump in one hand and the ball in the other hand. For many years, that's how I broke the wicket. Many of the players didn't know the law, but I took the stump in one hand, had the ball in the other hand. I would say, "Auze." That was not the correct way of breaking the stumps. This is the correct way. Here's a pic of how I did it for many years. This should be not out. It needs to be like this and not like this. Is this complete removal? What does the law say? Is this out or not out? In the chat box, I would love you to put the answer to this. Let me know, is this out or not out? There are times where one bail, let's say, falls off. The law allows for the wicket to be put down just to remove the other bail. So if there's one bail still on, you don't need to take out the stump with the ball simultaneously, at the same time. You can just remove the other bail. Batter out of his or her ground. Let's look at the video.
Batsman out of his or her ground. When a batsman is out of his or her ground, he or she risks being stumped or run out. So when is a batsman out of his or her ground? According to Law 30, a batsman shall be considered to be out of his or her ground unless the bat he or she is holding or some part of the batsman's person is grounded behind the popping crease at that end. Here, for example, the bat is on the crease marking, but not behind it, which means the batsman is most definitely out. But would the batsman be out now? Both the bat and the batsman are over the line, but neither the bat nor any part of the batsman's person is grounded, i.e. in contact with the ground. So, yes, that's out again. This being cricket, there is an exception to this part of the law. If a batsman, who must be running or diving, has already made his or her ground, either with the bat or any part of the body, but subsequently loses contact with the ground while continuing his or her forward momentum as the wicket is put down, he or she will be not out. Next question, and this can be a bit of a headache. What constitutes each batsman's ground? Well, When one batsman is in a ground, i.e. grounded behind a popping crease, then the ground at the other end belongs to the other batsman. If neither is in his or her ground, for example when they are both running between wickets or even stationary, each ground belongs to the batsman who is nearest to it. If both batsmen are level, then where they were before drawing level is the deciding factor. Of course, in cricket, there are further delightful complications, such as two batsmen in the same ground, or three when you have a striker with a runner. But never fear, all mental anguish will clear with a little quiet meditation and reference to Law 30 in the Blue Book.
Position of the non-striker. Where do the non-strikers stand? According to the law, the non-striker, when standing at the bowler's end, should be at the opposite side of the wicket to that which the bowler is delivered from. So if the bowler is bowling right arm over the wicket, the bowler should stand on the onside. If the bowler is bowling left arm over the wicket, the batter, if it's a right-handed batter, the non-striker should stand on the offside. Unless the batter asks you, no, non-striker asks you, is it okay if I stand on the same side? And the umpires, there's a good reason, you'll then allow it. But usually, non-striker to stand on the opposite side. Is this out or not out? I want you to put this, your answer also in the chat box. So keeper taking off the belts. Batter, bat grounded behind the popping crease, but batter not holding the bat. Would you say out or not out? The last law that I'm covering for this evening is appeals. And after this, I will then open the floor for Q&A. Umpire not to give a batter out without an appeal. There must be an appeal by any member of the fielding side for the umpire to give the batter out. If there's no appeal, even if you do think it's out, and I had this on a few occasions, I thought I heard a nick, no one appealed. I'm like, okay, I'm not, I didn't do anything. There was a few occasions where it hit the pad, back leg. I thought it was plumb in front. Bowler, no one appealed. If there's no appeal, do not give the batter out. But the law allows, even if there's no appeal, for the batter to leave his or her wicket. And I've had this where there was no one appealed, batter then put the bat under his arm and started walking. Everyone's asking, why are you walking? I said, guys, there was a faint nick. I'm an honest batter. I nicked it and I'm going. Captain of the fielding side shook his hand for his honesty, but that's 1 out of 1,000,000. But the point I'm just trying to make is the law allows for a batter out of his own to leave the wicket without an appeal being made. But an umpire not to give a batter out unless there's an appeal. There are times where a batter may leave his wicket under a misapprehension. What is this misapprehension? Where a batter think he or she is out, then leaves it. The law wants either umpire to intervene immediately in cases like this to stop the fielding side any further action. Example of this, and this happened to me quite a few times. It was noisy Newland Stadium. There was about 17,000 people in the stadium. It's noisy, and the umpire called no ball. Batter hit the ball straight to point. Batter put the bat under his arm and started walking towards the dressing room. Batter didn't hear the noble call. Batter think he was out, started walking. Fielder then tried to side the stumps. Umpire then immediately intervened by calling and signaling dead ball. Batter was under misapprehension, thinking he's out, but he was actually not out. So you need to be quick and you need to intervene immediately by calling and signaling dead ball. But this is only in instances where there is a misapprehension, where the batter do leaves his wicket thinking he's out. But you need to, judge each case on its own. You need to look at the incident and decide whether this batter think he's out, hence leaving his wicket. You shouldn't give immunity to a dozy, lazy batter that should be behind the popping crease and was maybe dozing off and not fully alert and not behind the popping crease and let's say the keeper or fielder takes off the bails. This is not for those dozy batters. This is for batter genuinely thinking or he's under the impression that he or she is out, but meanwhile he's not out, like in my case. Didn't hear the no ball, started walking outside the crease to stop that fielding side from running him or out. You intervene by calling and signaling dead ball. When it comes to timing of the appeals, there's a window period for an appeal to be valid. What is that window period? The law say that window period is, it must be made before the bowler begins his or her run-up, or if there is no run-up, the bowling action to deliver the next ball and before time has been called. So when it comes to an appeal to be valid, it's quite a huge window period, because it is from the moment, let's say, using an example, the bowler bowls the ball, the batter plays at it. You hear Nick, no one appeals. We've just heard that you can't give the batter out if there's no appeal, and you keep your finger behind your back. So now, in terms of an appeal to be valid, the window period is up until the bowler begins his or her run up for the next ball, until that first step gets taken for the next ball. So even if the bowler, just before taking his or her first step for the next ball, or any fielder then now say, umpire, how's that? The law then allows you to give that batter out court. Just be prepared for all hell to break loose on the field if you give the batter out at this stage. But the law allows it, because that window period only closes once the bowler begins his or her run-up. The law goes even further by saying, even if you call over, it doesn't invalidate an appeal made prior to the start of the following over, as long as you didn't call time. So even if it was the final ball of the over, as long as the bowler for the next over didn't take his or her first step, that appeal is still valid. You can still appeal. But if you're gonna, but just be prepared that if you're gonna give a bowler out, a batter out so long after the fact, there's gonna be a tsunami of players towards you. How's that? Covers all ways of being out. So the law wants you to say, how is that? But we all know, in practice, they don't shout how's it. Some will say how's that. Some will just say different bowlers have different methods of appealing. I've heard bowlers say yeah. It's just their method of appealing. That is an appeal. You're not going to throw the book at the player and say, yeah, but the law say you must say, how is that? You'll accept that yeah or as an appeal. And the appeal covers all methods. They don't have to specify what they're appealing. They don't need to say, how's the umpire for LB or how's the umpire for court behind. An appeal is an appeal. When it comes to answering appeals, which umpire answers which? When it comes to the strikers in umpire, there's only 3 appeals that the strikers in umpire that falls under his or her jurisdiction. Hit wicket, stumped, or run out at the strikers in. Those 3 falls under the jurisdiction of the strikers in umpire. All the other mode of dismissals or all other appeals needs to be answered by the bowlers in umpire. When an appeal is made, each umpire shall answer only those that falls within his or her jurisdiction. You will not, if it's a stumping and the strikers in gives it out or not out, you're not going to go from bowlers in and say you think it was out. It looked out from your look not out from your side. It's not in your jurisdiction. Don't get involved. The strikers in umpire needs to adjudicate on stumping. Falls within his or her jurisdiction. When a batter has been given not out, either umpire may answer an appeal if it is on a further matter and it falls within his or her jurisdiction. Does the law allow umpires to consult? Yes, the law allows umpires to consult, because sometimes if an umpire is doubtful about any point that the other umpire may have been in a better position to see, the law allows for that umpire to call and signal dead ball, because we've covered it last week, where if umpire wants to consult, you need to call and signal dead ball before going over to consult. You can then go over to consult and then make your decision. But importantly, the law allows for consultation on doubtful points, but it cannot you cannot go and just consult either your colleague on any matter. Let's say, for example, and there's an LBW south. You cannot go and say, guys, just wait, I want to consult my colleague to hear if it's maybe high or if there was maybe bat involved. You cannot. Doubtful points are things like the striker edged the ball and it carried low to the sleep to the wicketkeeper or first slip. So this is an instance where your strikers in umpire, which has a side-on view, because you had a front-on view, side-on view, your strikers in umpire had a side-on view, and sometimes in a much better position to see whether the ball carried or not. That's an instance where you can go to your strikers in umpire, consult, ask if the ball clearly carried or not, and in consultation, if yes, you can then give the batter out or not out. If after consulting and there's still doubt, you always go not out. So just to summarize, law allows for consultation, but not on any appeals, only on certain points where your strikers in or the other umpire may be in a better position to see whether let's say whether the ball carried, whether the fielder, the keeper gathered the ball cleanly and broke the stumps. Those are instances where you can consult, but you cannot consult over LB or caught behind or say, wait, I just want to ask my colleague, did you hear Nick? Yes, okay, no. You only consult on certain issues. Is the fielding captain allowed to withdraw an appeal? Yes, the law allows the captain of the fielding side to withdraw an appeal after obtaining the consent of the umpire within whose jurisdiction the appeal fell. And if such consent is given, the umpire then to revoke the decision and to recall the batter. So the law allows the fielding captain to withdraw an appeal. And in terms of that window period, the law tells us that withdrawal of an appeal must be made before the instant when the ball comes into play for the next delivery, or if the innings has been completed at the instant when the umpires leave the field. Thank you so much, everyone. That is all laws I'm covering for this evening. I'm now going to open the floor for Q&A. We're going to follow our usual method by first going to the chat box. I'll go through the chat box and answer all the questions or comments in there. And then we'll go open the floor for whichever questions comes from the floor. So just give me a second. So while I go right to the top of the chat box, let me just give you some feedback on two questions that were raised last week. I spoke to one of South Africa's international umpires. His name is Alaudin Palika. He is also on the International Cricket Council Almanac Committee. This is the committee that sits and look at various laws and playing conditions and changes. So asked him about bowler dropping the ball while delivering and landing on the stumps. He confirmed that that falls under the dead ball law. If a ball accidentally falls from the bowler's hands, you need to call and signal dead ball. So he confirmed that. The second question I asked him was about not enough fielders in the circle. In T20 and 50 over cricket, there is a playing condition that wants a certain amount of fielders to be in the circle at all times. And in certain periods of the game, if there's not enough people in the fielders in the circle for that particular period, either umpire then to call and signal no ball. So the question was, in rectifying this breach, so let's say in a T20 game, in the last over of the game, you need to have 4 players in the circle or 5 players outside the circle. In this instance, there were only 3 in the circle, or i.e., 6 people was outside the circle. So now the umpire didn't call and signal no ball because there was a breach in the playing condition, only 3 in the circle. So now to rectify, you need to rectify or allow the fielding captain to rectify this breach, because if you're not going to allow it, you're going to call no ball after no ball after no ball. So now the question was, so rectifying this breach, this fielder that needs to come in, where does this fielder go? So he confirmed there's nothing in the playing condition that points out where this fielder needs to go. But usually in practice, it's one of the fielders forgot where to be in the circle and was outside the circle. And usually, let's say it was fine leg supposed to be up in the ring and fine leg was outside the ring, and the captain will usually have a go at fine leg for not being in the ring, and fine leg would then come up into the circle. So in practice, that is what usually happened. It was usually a fielder that was not supposed to be outside, that needed to be inside, that will now come in. But there's nothing saying the fine leg fielder has to come to a short fine leg position, but that is 99% of the time what happens to rectify, the breach. A fielder supposed to be in was out, and that fielder would just come in. So I'm starting in the chat box. Let me just go down. Good day, everyone. Okay, I need to apologize again. Tom and I was in another room earlier, but yeah, luckily we found the correct room that you were in. Okay. Just give me a second. I'm just going. So this looked like a previous This looked like a previous link that we use. Sounds good. Good evening. So Deepak, what is the only acceptable reason for allowing a substitute fielder? I gave you an example. You must let me know if you need a further example. But I gave you the example in Cricket South Africa's domestic competition, where we allow a student that's writing an exam, let's say on a Saturday, for a substitute fielder to come in his or her place. If you need another example, you can just let me know. Louis asked, would example a knock to a sprained ankle while diving to stop the ball on the boundary constitute an external blow? Yeah, so Louis, you need to, when you say a knock to the sprained ankle, did the ball go against the ankle, Louis? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, no, that was not the idea. The ball doesn't hit the player. I just used an example, either a knock to the ankle or a sprained ankle while diving, for example, but not the ball didn't but clearly it's an injury.
Yeah, but yes, I hear you, Louis. And but the law guides us by saying, was there an external blow? There needs to be some external blow for you to allow for penalty time not to be incurred. And if I can visualize your example, I don't see an external blow happening here. So unfortunately, this injured player, if he or she goes off, needs to serve penalty time.
So external means if he dives and he crashes into the advertising board and hurts him, then there's an external blow again.
That is an example of an external blow, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Louis. Going further down the list. Deepak's again asking, what about penalty time for batting? I think I've handled that. Batters also needs to serve penalty time. Opening bats used to abuse it. I was one of them. So if I didn't cover it and you need further explanation, Deepak, you must let me know when I open the floor for Q&A later on. Francis, when Cindy comes back to the field without telling the umpire fingers have been scored against the team, please, what next? Must he go ahead and field, or must we tell the umpire about return to the field? So, Francis, I'm going to cover both instances, how it should be done, and if it's not done this way, what happens, and what is the procedure that the umpires needs to follow. So, what should happen? Cindy should come to you and inform you that, umpire, my hamstring, I need to have my hamstring treated. You take out your notebook, you write down Cindy, hamstring, time 10:30. You then tell Cindy, before you return, please inform one of the umpires. You'll also tell Cindy's captain, the fielding captain, to let you know as soon as Cindy returns. So why is that important? Firstly, because so that you can make a note when Cindy returns, because that will be the penalty time. If Cindy goes off at 10:30 and returns at 10:50, that's 20 minutes of penalty time that Cindy needs to serve before she can bowl again. So if Cindy doesn't not inform you that that she's now back, and it sometimes happen. They'll make the swap at fine leg or third man. I mean, your eyes cannot be everywhere. They'll swap during the over. Cindy will swap with the substitute at fine leg. It can happen. So if that is the case, you haven't seen Cindy. Cindy didn't inform you. Now the ball is now while in play. The ball now goes to third man, and Cindy picks up the ball, and you now see Cindy picking up the ball, and you obviously know that Cindy didn't inform you. As soon as Cindy touches the ball then becomes dead. 5 penalty runs. runs to count that they completed, run in progress if they cross also to count, ball not to count as one for the over. You'll then inform Cindy why you went into this action. You'll inform the fielding captain also, because before Cindy went off, you told both of them, please tell me when she goes off, so that if she comes on without your permission and touches the ball, and you apply the penalty, the fielding captain cannot point any fingers towards you, nor towards your Cindy cannot point any fingers towards you, nor can the fielding captain, because before Cindy went off, you actually told them that they need to inform you. Just to add on, how I handle this on the field of play, and it happens quite often. And for whatever reason, you can tell players, please let me know when you come back on. There's many of them that suddenly you'll see player X. Let's use Cindy as an example. Even after telling Cindy, let me know when you're back on, suddenly you'll see Cindy on the field. But Cindy hasn't touched the ball yet. To apply this penalty run, Cindy needs to touch the ball. So if I see Cindy on the field, I'm now not going to wait for Cindy now to touch the ball and now apply penalty runs. Technically, you can, because it's Cindy's duty to inform you. It's not your duty to inform, um, um, to check. And it's her duty to have informed you when she was back on. But I just try, if I do see Cindy, and she haven't touched the ball yet, and if I do see her, I'll call her and say, I won't make a scene. I just, Cindy, I ask you nicely, why didn't you tell me when you were back on? When did you come back on? I said, oh, sorry, umpire, I came back on at the drinks interval, or I just swapped with the substitute at fine leg. Yeah, but Cindy, you had to tell us. Luckily, you didn't touch the ball. There would have been a harsh penalty. And also, I don't know, when did you come on? No, I came on 10 minutes, said Cindy. Unfortunately, I only saw you now. So, yes, I'm acknowledging that you're now back on the field. But even though you telling me you came back on 10 minutes, I only saw you now. And this is now half an hour since you were off. You need to serve 30 minutes of penalty time. It's unfortunate, but you need to wait 30 minutes of penalty time. So I'll try to manage the situation if I can. If I do pick Cindy up in the field and she hasn't touched the ball yet, I'll just whisper in her ear. I won't make a scene. But if she do touch the ball while play is in progress and she hasn't informed you, and it's just unfortunate, you then have to apply the law. Francis, I hope I answered your question. When we get to the hands, if I didn't, you can let me know. Viswa, I have two questions. About a no ball, a spinner bowls a full toss which flies over the batter's head and tips to hit the top of the stumps. Should the batter be out, or will it be a no ball? Okay, Viswa, to answer your first question. So when it comes to judging the no ball of a full toss, your judgment call needs to be batter standing upright at the popping crease. So you need to ask yourself the question, when the batter was upright at the popping crease, would the ball have been above waist height? That is the question that you need to ask yourself. You shouldn't be looking where the ball ended up. Did it go against the wicket? Did it not go against the wicket? All you need to ask yourself is, and if the batter was standing upright at the popping crease, would the ball have been above waist height or not? If the answer to that question is yes, the ball would have been above waist height, you need to call and signal no ball. If the answer to that question is no, the ball would have not been above waist height, you then would deem that to be a fair delivery. So do not look at where it ends up. You need to judge it. If above waist height, striker standing upright at the popping crease, that is your judgment call. And if yes, no ball. If no, fair delivery. Second question, Viswa. If batter due to some reason has to use the bathroom and is unavailable, will it be retired, not out? And how will we signal it? So in practice, Viswa, what usually happens is batters wait until there's a drinks break. Usually in international and provincial cricket, even in club cricket, um, we have drinks breaks in the middle of the session, or in 50 over cricket there are two drinks breaks in the 50 overs. Usually batters will wait until there is for that drinks break, and then they'll quickly run off and go to the toilet. Also, what happens in practice, what batters sometimes do is they if the wicket falls, they ask umpire quickly, I need to go. Then they'll quickly run off, go to the toilet, and come back. So that is also what happens in practice. Um, so to answer your question about retired out to not out, this is not a batter retiring. The batter just quickly need to use the toilet. So as I said, in practice, they'll usually wait for either drinks break for a wicket to fall if they have to go, uh, and um, and then they'll go. I saw a test match a few years or many years ago in the West Indies where AB de Villiers was batting, and in the middle, at the end of the over, suddenly you saw AB de Villiers running off the field. Obviously, the commentators were, where's AB going? AB, afterwards we heard that AB had to go to the toilet. So the umpires actually allowed AB to quickly go to the toilet and then come back. So no, AB didn't retire. He just quickly went to the toilet. But as I said, I saw it in Test match cricket where they quickly allow the batter the time that the batter's off. They'll that 1 or 2 minutes. They won't penalize the fielding side. They'll just use it as extenuating circumstances. But yeah, usually batters wait for a drinks break or for a wicket to fall if they have to go and quickly go. But that's the exception to the rule. Yeah, mostly batters um, they can't think of a better word, but they can keep it in and they'll go they'll go during an interval to the toilet. Similar to umpires, we. Nothing stopping us from quickly going, but yeah, we usually wait for a break before we go. Deepak, so is practice allowed on the square before the match? So Deepak, yes, there are playing conditions that allow those bowling strips at international and provincial cricket, and it's usually the very last pitches on either side. So you'll find, let's say, Indian South Africa is playing, so India will utilize, let's say, the strip on the left hand. On the right hand side, and South Africa the one on the left hand side. So before the game starts, there are those bowling strips that they can utilize to practice on. Similarly, during intervals, whether it's tea or lunch or change of innings, yes, practice is allowed on those bowling strips before the match. There are playing conditions that allow that. Digvijay saying, we see Quinton de Kock wearing keeper pads inside the trousers. Yes, Digvijay, many keepers today wear it inside. The law allows the keeper to wear it outside, but there's nothing stopping the keeper wearing it inside. I've actually seen keepers not wearing any pads. I was one of the umpires in the SA20 this year, and funny enough, it was Quinton de Kock. One of the games, he was not wearing pads while keeping. Doesn't have to. The law doesn't say keeper must wear pads. It allows the keeper to wear pads, and the law allows the keeper to wear it outside the the trousers. Similarly with gloves, the law allows the keeper to wear gloves. Nothing in the law that says the keeper must wear gloves, but I've never seen a keeper not wear any gloves. Now I see there's a few not outs, outs, not outs. That is to the first scenario of where the where the batter where the batter was standing outside the crease, but the bat was in the crease. That the wicketkeeper broke the stumps, but the bat was not held in the held in the hand. Is that out or is it not out? Those of you that said it is out, out is the correct answer. Why is out the correct answer? Because the law wants for the batter to have made his or her ground, that bat needs to be held in the hand. Because the bat was not held in the hand, the law sees that as out. That bat, even though it was touching the leg, it needs to be in the hand. Because it wasn't in the hand, if that bat was in the hand, that would have been not out. But that is out. Then there was also the picture of the bales. There was a bale that was halfway down. Now the question is the wicket down or is the wicket not down? Those of you said that the wicket was down, and let's say that was out. That is the correct answer. The wicket is down. The wicket, as soon as the wicket is out the groove, that wicket is out the groove. Yes, it fell just halfway down the stumps and got stuck halfway down the stumps, but the bail is out the groove. And as soon as it's out the groove, even though, yes, it was only stuck, it only got halfway, but out the groove. So if the batter was short, that wicket is down, that would have been out. Okay, I'm going down the list. So Deepak is saying, how can the fielding side appeal if the ball is already dead, where the bowler is going back to his or run up? Is this not contradicting the dead ball law? So when it comes to the timing of appeals, Deepak, the law gives this window period where it'll allow. So yes, yeah, technically the ball is dead, but the law allows this appeals window period, and because the laws allow it, and as long as it's made before the bowler take his or her first step to bowl the next ball, that appeal is still valid. So yeah, so to answer your question, no, it's not a contradiction of the dead ball law. Yes, the ball is dead, but in terms of appeal and whether an appeal is still valid, and this is now a different law that now comes in. So under the appeals law, they deem the appeal still to be valid, and because it still falls in that window period, that appeal is still valid and you can give the batter out. So Deepak also asking funniest appeals that you have come across. Funniest appeals. I've noted different bowlers or appeals differently. There are some that says how's that. There are some that just shouts and you find sometimes different voices. I once had it was a fairly big bowler. You could see he was definitely spending lots of time in the gym. So now, but his appeal was a very thin pitch voice. So now it was just funny seeing this huge frame or this huge bowler with quite broad shoulders, and he was like almost 2 meters. So you see this big bowler, but when he appealed, you heard this coming out of his mouth. So Once or twice I did have a have a giggle because it was quite funny seeing this huge bowler with such a thin voice. Another question by Deepak. Why can't the strikers in umpire consult for height of the ball with the leg umpire for an LBW appeal, especially in case of batsmen playing outside the crease? In case of a consent, can the batsman be recalled, or has he already crossed the boundary line? So Deepak, the the law allows for consultation, but the law only allows for consultation on certain instances where the umpire maybe is in a better position, like did the ball carry, did the keeper carry the ball, gather the ball cleanly, was the wicket broken clearly. The law it doesn't allow for you to ask your colleague about height, about was there an edge. It doesn't allow for that. But what we as umpires do, we do have signals as a team that we discuss before the game starts, there where we can help our partners. So the law is strict. The laws say you can only consult in certain instances. Other instances like LBW, bowlers in needs to make that call. Called behind, bowlers in umpire needs to make that call. But as a team, we do work together. We do discuss before the game starts, and there are various signals that umpires use different signals. There's some umpires, let's say at the strikers end, that will do this with their fingers, or they'll do this with their hands. So if you see your colleague, but these are all pre-game signals that you discuss with your colleague. If you see your partner doing this, that's an indication that your partner think there was bat involved. So what you do is, as bowlers in, you discuss these signals before the game. You just move your eyes. You don't move your head and look towards your colleague as strikers in. You move your eyes slightly. If you've got sunglasses on, even better. Then the fielding side cannot see your eyes moving to strikers in. But you to see if your colleague made some type of sign. You can have a sign for height as well. One of the signs the umpires use is they'll lift their hand up and down at strikers in. If you see your colleague lift your hand up and down, it's an indication that he or she thinks height might be an issue. Some umpires use the a walking in method. So if they hear an edge, if they're 100% sure, they'll walk in towards the wicket at not towards the bowler's end, but towards the striker's end wicket. So if you see your strikers in walking in, that's an indication that there's been an edge. Some umpires would touch the ear at strikers end. That's an indication that he or she heard something, and you can then take it to make your decision. But just the point I'm trying to make is, yes, we do work together as a team. The law allows us to consult on certain stuff, but we also help our colleagues on instances, and those are, again, it's important that you do have pre-arranged signals before the match starts. If I hear an edge, this is what I'll do. uh, if I don't hear it, this is what I do. If I think there's height, this is what I do. Ultimately, the decision lies with the bowlers and umpire. He or she can use strikers and umpires information that you get to help you make your decision, but it's up to bowlers and to take the help from strikers in, or not to take the help. So yeah, we do help each other. Also, I see you mention here when a batter is well outside the crease. So one of the important things that we do is, if we do see a batter, whether it's well outside the crease, whether it's deep inside the crease, before that bowler starts his or her run up, the batter's already taking his or her stance. We then help our colleague. Your colleague will usually look at you you'll give an indication. This is how far the strike is outside the crease. Or some, again, pre-arranged signals before the game with your colleague. If I show you this, this means the batter is standing so far outside the popping crease. So yes, we do help each other if the batter's outside the crease. At international level and provincial level, we do have radios, so we can communicate via radio. So it is a bit easier at that level. At club level, also you can help your colleague, but those signals needs to be discussed by the two umpires before the game starts. In case of consent, can the batter be recalled or he has already crossed the boundary? So I think it's Deepak that's asking this question. So Deepak, the old rule used to be as soon as the batter crossed the boundary, the batter cannot be recalled. That law was changed recently. They now allow us, as long as the next ball is not bowled. If the next ball is bowled, the batter cannot be recalled, or if time hasn't been called. But let's leave time aside. If the next ball was not bowled, the batter can be recalled. So that window period stops as soon as the bowler takes the first step for the next delivery. The law of crossing the boundary was changed a few years ago. It is now until the next ball is bowled. Tabiso is asking, can I ask if the fielder tries to court the ball while in the air, then the floppy falls, then it gets inside the floppy, so those the fielding side be charged with penalty? So, Tabiso, the law says if it falls accidentally off the fielder's head, no illegal fielding, so no award of penalty runs. But the crucial word is accidentally. If it's willful, now you can start giving penalty runs. Faisal, can a player return to the field while the over is in progress? Yes, Faisal, there's nothing stopping that happening. Usually it happens at the end of the over. So practically, umpires usually make that change at the end of the over. There's nothing stopping it from happening in the middle of the over. Like, let's say, an injury to a player occurs during the over, and the fielder tells you, I'm ready, can I make the change? You'll allow it. Let's say they're moving a side screen and that taking a bit of time, you will allow the change. But usually practically it happens at the end of the over, but there's nothing stopping it from happening during the over, but something needs to happen. Usually, let's say injury is a good example. There's an injury, the physio is coming on, and we'll quickly make the change. We don't want to make this a change in the middle of the over, as to not to waste any time. Francis is asking, how many nobles can a bowler bowl to the same striker in an over? How many nobles can a bowler bowl to the same striker in an over? Francis, I don't really understand what you're saying. At international and provincial cricket, there's no limit on the amount of nobles. If you've bowled six nobles, it is. I'm also not sure if you're referring to if there's been a breach in the playing condition where there's not enough fielders in the circle and you need to rectify the breach. I'm not sure if that is your answer. So if there is not enough fielders in the circle and you need to rectify the breach, you'll call and signal no ball, and you'll tell the captain it was only, let's say, 3 in the circle. You'll then, before the next ball gets bowled, you'll allow the breach to be rectified, because if you're not going to allow the fielding breach to be rectified, you're just going to bowl no ball after no ball after no ball. So the playing condition allow for that breach of not enough people in the circle for that to be rectified. I'm not sure if I answered your question, Francis. If not, when we get to the hands up section, feel free to raise your hand and you can elaborate on your question. Sandeep is saying, yesterday I allowed a batter to take a break during his batting for a bathroom break. Yeah, Sandeep, is nothing in the law yet stopping. As I said, I saw AB de Villiers in a test match in the middle of the over, had to go. The umpires allow, it didn't take that long. I think it was 2-3 minutes. I mean, I didn't time it, but it wasn't that long. Um, the umpires allowed it. That 3 minutes, let's say he was off for 3 minutes, that 3 minutes, we will not penalize the fielding side. We will then make a note of it. We'll use it as extenuating circumstances when we calculate the over rate of the fielding side. Louis, another question by Francis. So when do bowler become dangerous to a striker? Francis, you'll have to elaborate on this when we get to the hands. Please raise your hand. Elaborate on this as well as your noble question. So when we get there, I'll give you an opportunity to elaborate on both your questions. I don't understand what you're asking. I went through all the questions in the chat box. I'm now going to see which hands are raised. The first hand that's raised is Viswa. Viswa, can you unmute your microphone? Ask your question. You can put on your camera if you want to, Viswa.
Thank you, Abdullah. How are you?
Good, thank you, Viswa. How are you?
I'm doing good and appreciate your time taking this along with Tom.
No, you're welcome. I love this. This is a passion. I can go on for 24 hours. Okay, I think my wife will not be too impressed if I must carry on for 24 hours. But yeah, I love this. Yes. What's your
The
question?
question I asked about the no ball, you remember the one which dips over the batsman head?
Yeah, dipping.
In modern day cricket, the batsmen are using the crease so wide and exclusively, like there is no limit for them to use the crease. So in that case, will that still be called a no ball?
Yes, Viswa, your judgment point is, and the lawmakers agree in modern day cricket, not just they go deep into the crease, they also double step, triple step, to get to the the pitch of the ball.
Okay.
No matter what they do, whether they go in deep or double or triple step, or even if they end up halfway down the pitch, your judgment call stays. You need
Okay.
to ask yourself, if that batter was standing upright at the popping crease, would the ball have been above waist height? I know it's tough, especially if you find a batter 3 meters down. The other night we saw Kohli. Kohli wasn't happy with being given out. Kohli felt the ball was above waist height. Yes, when Kohli hit the ball, it was above waist height, but Kohli was 2-3 meters down the track. And you could see the trajectory of the ball. It was busy dipping. So I'm not covering for the umpires. And yes, they do need. It wasn't an umpire's call. They used
The
um,
technology.
they used technology. They used technology to just give me a second. My daddy just fell here. I just want to see if my
Oh, man.
daddy's okay. Just give me a second.
Sure, please. Yep.
Okay, guys, I'm back. Yeah, my daddy just fell over something. No, it's good. It's good.
Is he all right?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, good. I
Um,
have one more question
yeah.
before I
So
let
did I
you.
answer your question? Yeah. So just to finish off the question. So the technology helped, and the judgment point that the technology used was Kohli standing upright at the popping crease. That's where they judged it, And
Okay.
taking into account Kohli's length, the ball dipping, technology deemed that would have been below waist height. That is your judgment call. At club level, I know we don't have that technology. You do need to make that judgment call. It's a split second. It is difficult, especially if the batter double steps. But you need to make the call, make it confidently. Yes, players will moan, fielding side will moan. Let's say if you call it, if you don't call it, the batter will moan. Don't worry about the moaning. Make your call and stick with it. Make it confidently. That's my call. If they moan, guys, that's my call. Accept it. Move on.
I have one question, last
Mm,
one. Uh, in a match, in a one-day match or maybe like a T20, there is a fielder who is walking in from outside the 30 yard to be inside by the time the ball is delivered. But I noticed that a portion of his foot is outside. A portion of his foot is outside. I'm standing at the square leg and I see him on the fine leg. So I called it over a no ball. Is that a correct call or not?
So, Viswa, what I'll do is, I mean, if you do see it, it starts and go. I'll have a word with that fielder. I'll say, fielder, I want you to be inside the circle. When the ball gets the
Not on
gets
the line. He
gets
should be
yeah
inside the line. Am I
gets
right?
yeah. I agree with you, but yes, I'll have a word because he's going to. I'll rather try to manage it. If I see it the first time, I will call. I will have a word with him. I say I want you inside. If I'm next time, if I'm not going to see you inside, I'm going to call you. So
That's what exactly happened. That's what
yeah,
exactly
so
happened.
yeah, rather manage it because now if you call it and you say yeah, it's just going to just manage it and yeah, um, it will help you with your rapport, teaching the players how the law works. Most of them don't know how it works. It's just better player management to educate them whenever you can.
So it should be like not on the line, inside the circle, meaning
It
like
needs to be
they
inside.
should be inside.
It needs to
So
be
the
inside the
argument, I mean,
circle.
like when I called it, the argument was I was inside. There is only a portion. I said like if it was the same when you catch a ball touching the boundary line, should I call it a six or a four? So that's how it was, and
Yeah.
it was subsided. But I just want to usually mention it to the players, try
Hmm.
to be inside the circle, not on the line. That's what I do. Thank you so much, Abdullah. I'm done.
You're
I'm
welcome.
lowering my hand and leaving it for the floor. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Tabiso, I see your hands up next.
Thank you, Abdul. Can you please go to Francis? I think I want to hear from him from those questions that he wants to ask, please. Then I'll come back after once he's done with the questions.
Okay, Francis. Tabiso's giving up his place in the row. The floor is yours, Francis. You can unmute your microphone and you can put your camera on if you want to.
Thank you very much, and I hope your father is okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, he fell. Yeah, and I just helped him up, and now he said to me he's good. So
Yeah, concerning Cindy, she came back without telling you. You only realize that she has caught the ball, so you don't have any option than to apply the rules.
correct.
After applying the rules correctly, what happens? Machine now come and tell you that umpire, I'm back,
No,
or
okay,
you take it
yeah.
as
You take it as he's now back. You've now already
good.
punished her because if she caught the ball, that catch is not going to stand because the ball immediately becomes dead. 5 penalty runs, so the catch will not stand. So you've already punishing Cindy and the team here. So you'll take it now then as Cindy informing you that she's now back onto the field. You look at your watch. You look at the
Uh-huh.
time.
Uh-huh.
You from that moment you will now work backwards. If Cindy left at 10:30 and you're looking at your watch, it's now 11 o'clock. Even though Cindy might say, yeah, but I've been here 10 to 11 already. Cindy, this is your own fault. I told you to inform me when you're back. You didn't. I only laid eyes on you at 11 o'clock. So that's 30 minutes from when you left. So So you need to now wait 30 minutes before you can bowl. So it will be not out, 5 penalty runs, ball won't count. Runs, if they complete it, will count. If they cross at the instant when Cindy touch, all that punishment is fairly harsh punishment. But if you try to manage it, you say to Cindy, let me know when you're back. If she does not let you know, it's not your fault.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you.
You're welcome. Tabiso, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Abdul. My question is regarding the movement of the wicket keeper, because there was a scenario that you posted of Chamba Pavuma trying to play a sweep shot. So, if the keeper moves first before you attack the ball, are you disturbing the wicket keeper in terms of like how? Are interfering with the play or interfering with the wicket keeper? How?
Yeah, the law says unfair movement. So keeper needs to wait. So if in Timber's case, as soon as Timber started to get into that position, then the law allows Timber now to move. If there was no movement by Timber in that scenario, keeper then cannot just start moving to the leg side. The keeper needs to wait until the ball is by the batter before the keeper can move, unless there's been that indication, like Timber did. As soon as Timber starts with that indication to go lap, the keeper can then start running. Up until that moment, until there's no movement, the law doesn't allow the keeper to move at all.
Okay, hi. Thanks for the answer, Abdul.
Okay, Tabiso?
No,
The
no more questions.
Okay, thank you. Next hand is Ali. I'll take Ali, and then I will go check in the chat box if there's more questions. I don't see any more questions in the chat box, but I will go Ali. Ali,
Good evening, sir.
you
Can hear me?
can, yeah, unmute the microphone. You can
Yes.
switch on your camera if you want to.
Yeah, sir. My question is regarding the start of the innings of the batter. As the law says that the opening batter innings starts with the call of play.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's take it. It's a T20 match. Now we are discussing someone coming at number 7 or number 5, and he enters in the field of play. But suddenly, coach and captain realize, oh no, the match situation is taking place. They immediately call him back. We don't have the camera facility at such level. We umpire. So what happened in this case?
As soon as that, let's say the number 5 batsman put his or her foot over the boundary, innings has started, cannot then go back. So you need to be watching. You need to see whether the batter is on the field. As soon as that batter is on the field, captain cannot call the batter back.
If ever that goes unnoticed by the umpire, sir, so what will happen?
If it goes on, yeah, if it goes unnoticed, if you didn't see it and they send someone else on, nothing you can do about it. In a club game, and if you didn't notice it, nothing you can do. But that's why you need to be alert as umpires. There's lots of things that you need to be looking at. But if you didn't pick it up and they do change it, nothing you can do. Yeah, you weren't even aware that they called someone back and put someone else in. You weren't aware, so nothing you can do about it.
Exactly. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome. Let me go again to the chat box, see if there are any questions in the chat box. I don't see any questions in the chat box. Let me see if I see any hands raised. I don't see any hands raised. Okay, going once, going twice. If there are no more questions in the chat box, no any hands raised, then thank you so much, everyone. You enjoy the rest of your evening. It's now 8:30 South African time, or evening day, wherever you are in the world. I'll be back tomorrow evening, South African time, 6 o'clock. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
There's a question by Alexis. Alexis, I hope you're still on the call. I'll ask your question. Lexi, you realize that the substitute at bold, Lexi, you are in trouble. As part of a big job of umpiring, you need to make sure that only the nominated players bold. If you allowed it and a substitute bold, nothing you can do about it. You've allowed it. As soon as you realize you need to stop, you need to stop it. Substitute is not allowed to bowl, but you're gonna take lots of flack because big part of umpiring and this is a big part. You should not be allowing a substitute to bowl. So yeah, you're going to take lots of flack for this if you allow a substitute to bowl. Sometimes you'll allow, let's say in 50 over cricket, you'll allow a bowler to bowl 11th over. Shouldn't happen because the max that you allowed to bowl in a 50 over game is 10. But if it happens and you allowed it, it's a mistake on your part. You'll get lots of flack, but yeah, it's nothing you can do. As soon as you realize your mistake, you need to stop. Thanks, everyone. I don't see any more hands. I don't see any other questions in the chat box. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock, 1800 hours South African time. Bye, everyone.